So let's talk about benchmarks, and let's talk about applying the benchmarks from the very simplest or very easiest level. Many of you are measuring customer satisfaction. I would think that all of you are measuring customer satisfaction in one way or the other. And when you measure customer satisfaction for purposes of this example, you might be able to see how you rate in different characteristics that you're measuring. So technical ability, response time, time to provide a solution, professionalism, overall opinion or overall satisfaction might be some of the characteristics that you're measuring on a day-to-day or regular basis. In this example, we're seeing a chart that shows performance in each of those categories on a 1 to 5 scale, where 1 is poorest and 5 is best. And by the way, the 1 to 5 scale is the most used scale globally, so this is kind of a typical portrayal. As a manager, when you see this kind of variation in different characteristics of how you serve your customers, how you measure the service quality that you're delivering, it'd be very natural for you to look at response time, which in this example is a 3.5. It's the lowest of the bars that you see. It would be very normal and natural to say, well, I need to focus on my response time and bring that up more to the level of the other characteristics which I am delivering. So with a benchmark, now the portrait changes. What you're seeing now are the same numbers that I showed you just a moment ago. In this case, though, the red bar shows a benchmark, and this benchmark then shows in comparison how this example company compares in technical ability and response time, in time to provide a solution, in professionalism, and in overall opinion. And here what you see is that, in fact, where you were drawn to repair response time or to place your resources to improve response time, in fact, your response time is better than your colleagues that are participating in this benchmark. You're performing ahead of those participants, and in fact, where you thought that technical ability was your strength, in fact, your technical ability is behind what this benchmark community shows. So what a benchmark does is it helps you understand where you can spend your limited time and resources to make the biggest difference to your customers. It's also important to be thinking about, well, how hard do I have to work? How hard do I have to run to improve or to be better? This chart is a chart that shows the range of customer satisfaction for those categories that I just mentioned. And this chart shows that the barometer or the scale here, each one of those vertical slide lines, shows a best in class and a worst in class. So the top of those lines shows a 4.2 in the example of technical ability and a 3.6 at the bottom of the technical ability. So in other words, this community of organizations participating in this benchmark are ranging from 3.6 to 4.2. The company in this example is the little diamond or triangle, and in this example it shows that the 4.1 is actually very close to 4.2, which is the highest scale. So by correlating what is most important to customers and understanding what your performance is compared to the benchmark and compared to how far ahead of the benchmark the best-in-class organizations are, you can lay in your resources to spend your money and to spend your time in the best way. Let me give you some examples of how some other companies use this information to actually make changes based on benchmarks. Here's an example of a company, and these are just 8 of their 300 technicians. But this company was experiencing complaints from its customer base that the service that they were providing on a particular product was very, very poor. By having a measurement program in place with statistical valid selections and measurements, they're able to measure each one of their technicians. They were able to compare how each one of those technicians was performing compared to an industry benchmark on that particular product. In this chart, you can see that there were some technicians that perform well ahead of what is normal, and some technicians that are performing well behind what is normal. What that organization did to react to the concern that they're receiving from their customer base, that their service on that particular product was very poor, what they did is they selected just those individuals who were performing below the benchmark, and they spent their training dollars on just the individuals that needed the most improvement in those technical skills for that particular product. That organization saved $35,000 in their training budget and moved their overall customer satisfaction by paying particular attention to the low performers and bringing them into the realm that was appropriate according to an industry benchmark. Here's another example of a company that uses benchmarks to solve a global or a regional problem. This particular company has been providing services in the US, Canada, France, Germany, and the UK. And for 3 years, the executive management was driving an initiative to say that our customer satisfaction for our company across all of our regions and our geographies shall be 4.6. And every country manager is responsible for moving his service level to a 4.6. For 3 years, that there were certain improvements, but the objective was never obtained. And only when that organization started to compare its regional performance to a benchmark of the services that were being delivered in those various geographies, only then were they able to understand that by setting more reasonable goals, by setting a goal to bring the customer satisfaction for, in this case, this has to do response time, to levels that more closely compared to the benchmark, were they able to actually accomplish a change by setting a benchmark, by using a benchmark to set a goal that was reasonable by each geography. Those country managers were able to understand what they needed to do by that goal, and using the resources that they had available within each country. They were able to actually move their customer satisfaction by 4% year over year. Another company used benchmarks to define a pay-for-performance program for their dealers and partners through which the services on their products were being delivered. What that organization did is used industry benchmarks and industry measurements for products and services in different product areas and different geographies to establish a pay-for-performance program that had goals and objectives according to reasonable benchmark goals. In this case, this company established a program where they would have a reward for those partners and dealers who would be able to increase their customer satisfaction, decrease their parts per call, and increase their first-time fix over time. So by using those three characteristics and making an investment in those dealers, they accomplished a number of things. One, and most importantly, they were able to identify their strongest and most capable business partners, and the investment that they were able to extend to those partners certainly was an investment, and it was not an insignificant investment. However, this effort, by focusing on those characteristics that make the biggest difference to the benchmark of customer satisfaction, of first-time fix, and for parts usage, drove us an overall operational savings of millions of dollars, and it truly was millions of dollars for this OEM. The cost of this program was significant, but the cost of this program was only 5% of the millions of dollars that they saved in this program. The reason the program was successful, however, is that the objectives and the expectations that were laid out to the ASPs, dealers, and partners were based on benchmark expectations that respected capabilities and performance in an appropriate community of performers. My last example here is an example that has to do with customer loyalty. Many organizations are measuring customer loyalty, and many of you are familiar with a number of different ways to measure customer loyalty. One very popular methodology is called the NPS, or Net Promoter Score methods, where individuals are measuring their customer satisfaction as well as other characteristics. This is primarily in the area of would a customer recommend the products and services of the service company. And those companies then are considered to be promoters if they responded 9 or 10 on a scale of 0 to 10. They were considered to be detractors if they responded 0 to 6 on that 0 to 10 scale, and then passive if they were 7 to 8. By taking this information and using NPS benchmark studies, this organization was able to focus on those individuals that they put in the detractor group. Those were the individuals that scored 0 to 6, and place their resources on improving the expectations and the service experiences of those individuals. And because of that effort, for those individuals and those accounts that were measured and monitored, they were able to increase revenue by 4%. That's a huge increase, but it all is predicated on having a measurement and an appropriate benchmark to understand where and how resources should be laid.